Hey guys, welcome in. Happy Thursday. I welcome you in joining me, Life on Mars, for our 30 Books in 30 Weeks personal development reading series. And so tonight and all this week, we're talking about the importance of boundaries in our life, our loves, and our relationships, and our businesses even. How about that? So as you guys come in, please share this out. Invite some people to join in. It's going to be some good conversation and good information. So invite some people in. For those of you who may be joining in for the first time, or those of you who have followed me for a while and just aren't really quite sure what does Marcy do, I want to make sure I'm diligent about sharing that information with you all as well. So my name is Marcy Batiste. I am an author. I'm a public speaker. But what I really get excited about is helping other women shine, helping them discover and embrace what I call their star power. And so that's what really moves me and motivates me. I also have a training company called Bankable Success Advisors, where what we do is we work with businesses and individuals and help them optimize their personal, emotional, financial, time, energy, all of their investments so they can yield the best return for their efforts. And so I'm excited that you guys are here. I'm excited for you to join me as I lead this community of amazing women this year on journeys of self-discovery and healing, and truly helping them to raise the bar in their loves, their lives, their relationships. And the goal for 2018 is 1,000 new rising stars. So I'm excited to help these ladies make their transformations and truly let their light shine and refuse to let the past pains, fears, flaws, and failures hold them back. Refuse to let fear dim their shine at all. So that's a little bit about who I am. And so this is part of our personal development 30 Books in 30 Weeks reading series, and boundaries is the subject matter for this week. Each week I pick a new book, a new personal development book. We're going to do this for the next 30 weeks. So that's what, 210 videos, 210 opportunities to connect. So that's what we're doing. And so last night we talked about some areas that we are solely responsible for in our lives, such as our feelings and our behaviors and our thoughts and our actions. And I wanted to invest this evening in talking about the other two areas. One is our love and our desires. And oftentimes people think that boundaries will prevent them from experiencing love or obtaining their desires. And it's really quite the opposite. Hey Jay, hey James, boundaries actually accentuate and provide kind of a protective shield for you to find love, seek love, give love, receive love, and then the same thing with your desires. But the thing about it is, for any of that to work, especially our desires, we got to get really clear about who we are. Like, what do we stand for? What truly are our desires, and what are the desires of other people? Because what happens a lot of the time is that people express certain things to be their desires, when really those desires are more of a reflection of someone else's desires. So they may start to desire something in order to attract or please or satisfy someone else. And so it's not truly their desire. And so the ability to truly connect with that experience and that desire is very difficult, because it's not really their desire. It's not really who they are. It's not what they're about. And, last week we talked about codependency, and that's a big part of codependency is, you assume responsibility for other people's, not only their problems, but also their desires. And so when we say that desires are, kind of the window to our heart or whatever, if your desires aren't truly a reflection of you and what you desire, they're not a window to your heart. And so they're going to allow you to attract the wrong things. Where if you have boundaries established, in order to set boundaries, like we talked about the last couple of days, in order for you to set boundaries and establish them that are healthy for you, you have to be clear about who you are, what you want out of life, what experiences, and you have to be clear about what your desires are. And so once you're clear about those things and you establish the boundaries, the appropriate boundaries, and put those things in place, then they actually lift that up. Hey, James, I'm doing good. How are you, honey? But the boundaries will actually lift you up. They'll help you attain the desires that you actually want to attain, as opposed to being in conflict with desires when the desires aren't really true to what your heart is seeking. Another part of it is love. And it's so difficult to convince people that boundaries actually can help them find and succeed at love. So many times people have had so many bad experiences, and we've been hurt so many times that we kind of get hardened to even the idea of love. But boundaries actually support your ability to love. They support your ability to be loved, and that's a natural human wish. It's a natural human desire, is that of love, to love and to be loved. But we don't know how to go about it so many times, because we've tried and failed so many times in the past, but we tried without the right tools in our toolbox. And so every week, every time we come on, we're talking about putting new tools in the toolbox. That's really all boundaries are. Hey, Marcus, welcome. Boundaries are just new tools in your toolbox to teach you and teach those in and around you, like I always say, how to be in relation with you. If you're not clear about those things, how can you communicate them sufficiently? If you're not communicating them sufficiently, how can you expect anyone to adhere to them? How can you expect anyone to honor them? Good boundaries actually make it safe to be vulnerable and to really truly express love in its fullest capacity. You have to be the most vulnerable you probably will ever be in your life, because love, trust, respect, those are foundational components of what a healthy relationship looks like, what healthy love all grown up looks like. But we try and enter into love and we're missing little bitty pieces. And so, I wrote a book called Love Miscarriage, came out last year, and it's called Recovering the Broken Pieces of Your Heart When Love Dies Too Soon. Well, it's a little easier to pick up the pieces if you know exactly where they fell from. And boundaries give you that clarity. Boundaries give you that direction to help you discern, okay, the relationship failed. This is where I was in it. This is where my beliefs were. And then you have to ask yourself, did I communicate it properly? Then you have to ask yourself, on the other side of it, did you ask the right questions? Because too many times we try and be in love relationships, intimate relationships with individuals, and we have a very, very different understanding and expectation that is associated with love. So if my expectation is one thing, my partner's expectation of love is something else, they're not likely to meet in the middle. And then that's where trust gets broken and people get their feelings hurt, and betrayal starts to creep in, and dishonesty creeps in because we weren't being honest and we don't feel like we can be honest. But when you invest the time to lay out boundaries and be very, very clear and be very, very honest with yourself. One of the things I always talk to my clients about when we're talking about relationship issues is know what you want. It's about relationships, meetings, everything. Know what you want going in so that you can assess at any point along the way if your needs are being met, if your expectations are being met, if you're being fulfilled, if all of the things are in order. But if you don't know going in what you want coming out, and you just go in blindly saying, oh, I want to I want to be in love. I want a relationship. The universe can send you a relationship. Might not be a good one. Might not be a healthy one. And unfortunately, if you haven't invested the time to even know what you want out of the relationship, it takes way too long to figure out that it's not what you wanted. And then oftentimes we figure out it's not what we wanted, we don't know how to get out of it. And having and being clear about your boundaries allows you to walk away and be unapologetic. Hey, Anthony, I'm good. Thank you. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. That was one of the things for me that I worked so hard on, was setting good, solid boundaries. And so I know whether it's a friend relationship, a business relationship, an intimate relationship, family relationship, whatever it is, an acquaintance, an associate, I know based on these various levels of relationships with me, what and how far my boundaries, I know where my boundaries go. And I know how to communicate, you know what, this is a violation, and this was my understanding, and this is what's happened. So can we come to the table and talk about it and reach a compromise? Some people are willing to do that. Some people are grown up enough to do that. Not everybody is. And you got to be A-okay with that. I say all the time, it doesn't make you a bad person. It makes us a bad fit. And that's all it is to it. Like, I can walk away from a relationship with no hard feelings because I always know that going into it, I've been honest. I've been operating in integrity, that I've communicated, and we've had conversations about what the expectation looks like. So if there comes a point when that doesn't line up anymore, then I know we need to come back to the table. And if that other individual is not willing to come back to the table, there's no relationship. Like, there's nothing to discuss. I'm not going to try and force you to have a conversation about saving a relationship that you have just told me, by one, your violation, and two, your refusal to have a conversation about it, that it's not important to you. It doesn't have to be. And I'm okay with that. I'm so okay with that. But understand that once I move past it and I change the dynamic of it, I don't do do-overs either. That's one of my boundaries. I don't do do-overs. I've tried it once, knowing that I don't do do-overs. But I literally wanted the relationship so bad that I was like, okay, there were extenuating circumstances, a death in his family, and, it was really, really close person to him. And so I gave the bad behavior a pass due to the extenuating circumstances. And then when he circled back around and promised it would be different, promised it would be better, that he would work harder, he would communicate better, I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. But even then, like, part of me knew, like, Marcy, you know how do-overs turn out. They always turn out just like the first time, because the other person hasn't done any work in the interim. And so I was reacquainted with the fact that doesn't work when I tried it again, and I was like, okay, this is confirmation. This really doesn't work. Who needs Dr. Phil when we have Dr. Marcy? I need to be syndicated. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. I would love it. I would love it, Anthony. And yeah, you're right. Love can be defined in several ways. And so that's why I always talk about, when I talk about relationships and I talk about being in relation with one another, I always clarify, every interaction with another person is a form of a relationship. They are in relation with you. Relation as in teaching you how to interact with one another. So it doesn't matter if it's a familial relationship, an intimate relationship, a friendship, colleagues, businesses, business partners, whatever. Those are all forms of relationships. And then based on how the relationship is, there are all different forms of love. So you're absolutely right, Anthony. I have people that I've done business with that I love tremendously. I have so much respect for them. But it's a different kind of love than someone that I'm having an intimate relationship with. So there's different expectations. There's different guidelines. There's different operations for behaviors. And so my boundaries, though, in each of these situations has to be specific to the situation. And you have to understand going into a new engagement, a new relationship, what that looks like. And you got to be honest. You got to be so freaking honest. Because if they violate the boundaries, are you willing to walk away? And I tell clients all the time, I say, don't fight about it. Actually, until you've decided what you're willing to do, if the situation doesn't change and you're prepared to stand behind that, then there's no point in even bringing it up. If you're just going to bitch and complain and still stay and still let him play, let her play, there's no point. Why even bring it up? Why even have the argument? There's no point. If you're going to continue to allow someone to compromise your boundaries, hey, Gregory, good evening to you too, darling. If you're going to continue to let somebody violate your boundaries, there's no point in even bringing it up. Just move on. Keep it moving. Don't create an argument and be all resentful and then mad when it happens again, but you didn't say anything about it. You didn't say anything about the first time. You didn't say anything about the 7th time. You didn't say anything about the 27th time. And then you're mad that it doesn't change. But were you clear? Were you specific? And were you prepared to walk away? Like, you have to be prepared to make that tough call in the middle of the game and then stand by it. I look at those NFL referees, no matter how crappy the calls are, they gonna stand by it. They gonna stand by it. But relationships have to, thanks Sharon, hey, how are you? Relationships have to be the same way, you guys. You have to, I always say, if you don't voice your position, you lose your right to complain. Like, don't even bring it up. So I'm so serious about that. And so I have been known in the past to really just take some time. My last relationship, I took some time. I took about 3 days after we had a conversation about it. The behavior happened again. Then another conversation. It happened a second time. And I said, you know what? I need to take a time out. And I left for like 3 days and went to a hotel, took some stuff to work on, took my journal, took my mind, and I thought everything through. Pros and cons, weighed it out. You know, how much does this, how much does staying cost me? How much does leaving cost me? I weighed it all out. And when I was very clear and I was very certain that I would not, under any circumstances, cave on my decision, I said, the relationship is over. And I never looked back. And I could walk out of that relationship knowing that I had given it my best. I had given it what I had, everything that I had. But in the end, I'm going to honor my boundaries. I'm going to honor my needs. I'm going to honor, y'all know I'm sold out to my happiness. I'm going to honor my happiness. If you continually violate and impede my happiness, then it's over. It's pretty simple. And not a lot of people are prepared to do that. And so setting these boundaries is kind of that conditioning. So when we talk about having those tools in the toolbox, I had the tools in my toolbox to take those couple days and go down the list and say, look, this is what your expectations were for the relationship. This is what you communicated about the relationship. This is what you re-communicated when it was not working. To continue on, Marcy, you know how the story goes. You are going to lose. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Oh, Anthony trying to change the subject, get me on football. Yes, I am an honorary Eagles fan, however, because y'all know I cannot stand the Patriots, like arch enemies to my Broncos. So, yes, honorary Eagles fan for one day. Yeah, DBL, right. So that's my message tonight about boundaries. Tomorrow night, we're going to talk some more about boundaries, and we're going to get into sort of how do you really set them. So we talked about the need for them. We talk about why they're important, how they can be utilized as tools in your toolbox. And so tomorrow night, we're going to move into how do you actually set good, healthy boundaries that work for you. They don't have to work for nobody else. They're your boundaries. Remember, invisible property line. That's where I start and you stop. So in the meantime and in between time, guys, I appreciate you all for joining in, and I thank you for joining my community of ladies who are raising the bar, and the gentlemen who are raising the bar too. I'm knocking stuff around. But as always, guys, I appreciate you, and I love you, love you, love you, love you. And thanks for living life on Mars. We'll talk tomorrow night.